this week's episode from Field to Plate with Larry Lewis. I got a surprise gift about a couple weeks ago from a foodie friend of mine. It's actually a new cookbook from Field to Table Cookbook. Mostly wild game meat, preserving stuff, foraging in the forest. So it's just really cool. And I found a recipe I was going to do today. It's actually American Beauty backstrap. Originally, it's made with venison, a tenderloin roast or deer roast, just the tenderloin only. So we're going to substitute. I'm going to use the sauce today, which is actually going to be made with Portwine and homemade blackberry jam sauce over top of a fresh T-bone steak. So to get started on that, we're actually going to marinate steaks, but I would recommend anybody to get this cookbook. I think she found it at Ollie's. You might be able to Google it, Amazon somewhere and find it, but it's great. A lot of good articles about fall, winter, spring, different stuff you can find, eat, forage. And so you'll be seeing a lot on this cooking show. It kind of matches the show. So thanks for getting that for me, and we look forward to using it. So on our steaks, we're actually... this recipe calls out for 1 to 1.5 pounds of meat when these steaks are a little over a pound. So you would triple this recipe for these 3 steaks. So we got 3 pounds of T-bone steaks. If you want to look at them, they're really nice. They're nice T-bone steaks. So to this, we actually are going to get... Going to get our balsamic vinegar and about a 1/4 tablespoon olive oil. When I marinate with olive oil, I just use a cheap extra virgin olive oil. You don't have to buy a real expensive one. Balsamic vinaigrette, $4 or $5 a bottle. And to this mixture for the marinade is actually thyme leaves, and sea salt. And that's actually a good marinade for all steaks, is all 3 of these. So we're going to use about a 1/4 teaspoon of olive oil. And yeah, I'm using my hands. So I do that when I marinate meat or steak. I don't much with chicken. But then make sure that you wash appropriately afterwards before you go handling anything else. I guess it's the barbecue side coming at me. That's the only way you can get the seasoning on the meat good. But anyhow, get your thyme leaves and sea salt, and I'll just sprinkle it over it like that. And we'll get close up on this in a minute. So we'll use, then I usually just rub it in a little bit like this. 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinaigrette. We'll actually put that on there and rub all that in with olive oil. Flip it over, do the same thing to the other side. Get your seasoning on it. Rub it in good. We already got some olive oil that's on it. And you actually have olive oil in the bottom of this pan, so you can actually just keep rubbing it until it gets all coated good. If you want to put a little more sea salt, you can on it. It calls out for that amount. And actually, you'll do all 3 steaks this way. You'll let them marinate up to 2 hours to overnight. It's fine. It won't hurt anything. Then we'll come back later and we'll actually blacken these in an iron skillet, finish them off in the oven, and before we plate them, we'll let them rest. Welcome back. Now we're going to actually make the sauce, since this is the most time-consuming part of the whole dinner tonight, approximately 30 minutes from start to finish on the sauce. You can do this ahead of time and reheat it, or you can do it night of and just plan on... You want to time it with your steak because you don't want to cook steak and then for 30 minutes because it's going to be dry and rubbery. So kindly time it to where everything comes together at the end where steak's cooked. My perfect's medium rare, but tonight it'll be more towards a medium. And your sauce is done, and you can finish it all at the same time. And everything will be good and hot. What I didn't mention earlier is we got some red potatoes that's split in halves, and they're just on the stove. We're going to make a rustic red potatoes. It'll be just rough smashed with butter, a little bit of sea salt, and some sour cream, and that's it. And we're going to roast a little asparagus and finish it off with a little bit of lemon juice and just a touch of sea salt and butter. And kind of going to be a complete meal tonight. So to make the sauce, actually it's 1 cup of port wine. Port wine is just a rich red wine from Portugal. Rich cheeses, rich desserts and sauces. This is a classic game sauce that we're actually making tonight, and it's good on beef. Not so good. It's a little rich for chicken and stuff like that. So, but anyhow, you put your cup of port wine in there. I'm actually using, there are 2 or 3 jams if you look in the recipe book that you can use, but I'm actually using a homemade blackberry jam that I made back a few months ago when blackberries was ripe. So add a 1/2 cup of that. And into that mixture you actually add, we got some ground cloves, ground ginger, ground mustard, and just regular table salt to that. You can either use a whisk or spatula. And 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper also with that. So you actually just want to get that worked in. Be real careful because it's thin right now, but it'll, with all the sugars and stuff in the wine, it'll reduce down to a rich, thicker sauce. To that, we're not done, but I want to get my blackberry jam in there. I want to turn this down just a little bit while I'm trying to get everything in so we don't scorch it. Because the next little bit, it's when you reduce it down, you need to watch it and keep an eye on it so you don't burn it. So to that, we're actually adding a juice of 1 lemon. I want to actually, it's a big lemon, so I want to save a little bit for asparagus. And I usually turn it up like that or put it in my other hand so seeds don't go down in there. If you do have a few seeds, you can take them out. If you don't have a zester, you can use like a steak knife the back of it. I don't know if you all can see that, but you can actually just go over it like that and get the zest off real easy. So you just want to do that to the lemon and the orange. We'll do the exact same thing to orange. And get the zest of completely of each of them and the juice of each of them. And turn that on down a little bit. And you want this to reduce down to a real thick sauce to put on your steak. So when we come back, we'll actually have the sauce reduced down. We'll get the steaks put in the oven. And then we'll start on our sides. We want to do our mashed potatoes and asparagus last because they cool down quickly. And then we'll bring the whole meal together. So what we're going to do next is actually one of my favorite ways to cook a steak other than grilling it or on a direct wood is get a cast iron skillet screaming hot and blacken each side for maybe a couple minutes each and then finishing in the oven to about a good medium temperature. So saying that, I have a couple tablespoons of olive oil and just a cast iron skillet, and we'll actually let this blacken on each side for about 2 minutes each, and then we'll transfer it to the oven to finish it. And we'll do all 3 of them this way, and then when we come back we'll finish. We'll start on asparagus and potatoes. So next thing we're going to do is prepare asparagus. You always want to trim asparagus. This part's real woody, chewy. You don't want that. Couple ways you can break it like that, or you can get them all about the same length, come up about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and just cut them off, and you'll be fine. So we'll put all the asparagus in here. It doesn't take long to cook asparagus in the oven. I don't like it where it's real limber. I want a bite to it, so I don't cook it to. Normally, that I make a mistake. We all make mistakes. It's got a little bite to it and it's not overcooked, and that's what we're looking for. So I'd kind of do it the same way. I put it on the stovetop first. I'll add a couple pats of butter here to it with my olive oil. Let that melt and sear down on it. I always put a little bit of lemon juice on it when I'm roasting it. And I always put a little sea salt on it. Then while it's browning, getting hot, I'll actually let it, and I use the same skillet I was browning my steaks in. I always do. And you get a little bit of that char of the steak. I mean, it makes a really good flavor. It does. So we'll get this started and we'll put this in the oven. When we come back in a minute, we'll actually be smashing our potatoes and doing that next. Let this cook about no more than 10 minutes. Keep an eye on it, oven. I got it in while I'm cooking my steak, so when I pull my steaks out in a little bit rest, asparagus should be almost done. We got so many flavors going here, so we're going to make just a simple, rustic mashed potatoes. Now, my dad wouldn't eat these because, number one, they got peelings on it. Number two, they're going to have lumps in it. He don't like his mashed potatoes with lumps or peelings. But I do. I want a rustic look. We're going to start off with about 1 whole stick of unsalted butter. I put sour cream in mine at this stage a little bit. Makes them creamy. And as I usually do this, preferably a potato smasher, but if you don't have one, you can use a fork or a spatula. You just start working it in like that. Like I said, we're not going to completely smash these, but we do want them smashed somewhat. And add salt and pepper to taste. And pretty much all you're going to do on these potatoes. I mean, you want potatoes to be potatoes with just butter, sour cream, a little bit of salt. The steak's going to have a bold flavor along with the sauce we're going to put on it, so you do need something to balance that out with, and I think the potatoes does that. Asparagus got a little flavor to it. It'll have some lemon zest or lemon juice along with salt and olive oil, so we'll just continue smashing the potatoes up. And they won't be much different than this. I mean, I about got them to where I want them at far as rustic looking. If you want to, you can kick it up a little bit with some shredded cheese, bacon bits. I mean, but for this recipe, I just kind of wanted sour cream butter, and that's kind of what I was shooting for. But if you want to go all out, you can put chives in it. I've made it several different ways. I mean, you can really knock these up. Cajun seasoning, a little spicy. I mean, just however y'all want to do it. But anyhow, right now is about where I want this at. You can add a little more butter if you wanted to, or sour cream. We'll plate this up along with our steak, our sauce, and asparagus when we come back. Okay, so we're ready to plate this up. We got our T-bones, our sauce reduced down, our smashed potatoes, and our asparagus. We're going to get a little fancy here on the steak. It's probably closer, this one's probably closer to the medium rare side. I'm going to turn this around. I'm actually going to cut it completely off the bone like that, all the way around. So when I get it cut off the bone, actually going to use the bone for plating. If you can see, it's cooked how I like it. I'm going to slice the steak. My classic steak knife here. You can do the same thing on a grill if you'd rather grill it. If you want a little more done, leave it in the oven a little longer, of course. And we're actually going to lay this, try to lay it right back in to the steak how we had it. We'll put it back in there, just like this. Like that. We'll do the same thing this side. This is actually your fillet side of your steak, and that's your strip side. For those that don't know, a lot of times you don't get all this one back. You get real little side of your steak. So I'm going to put your steak like that, to the side. I would do a nice scoop of potatoes on it like this. Only mound them up to the side. I drizzle it with my sauce, which is super thick and reduced down now. Probably wouldn't, so we just want to put a little bit of that on. It's really rich, really sweet sauce. That's why I kind of made the potatoes plain and got asparagus to go with it, because it's such a rich sauce. Get you about 3 or 4 things of asparagus, 4 or 5, layer out across. Put you a little extra butter on your potatoes, and here you go. There's your meal. Please tune in to watch this episode on MTTV. All the recipes will be on there. I'd like to thank Mountain Telephone or MTTV for letting me have a chance to do this cooking show. We have other episodes on there that you can tune in, past and presents of my show and David Bradley's In the Kitchen with David. So please tune in and catch those shows, and when this was listed, up and coming, and enjoy your steak dinner.